This is Chernines, and for today's video lesson, we will talk about some properties of rational functions. Remember that rational functions are those functions that are the division of two polynomials. At the end of this video lesson, you will be able to determine the intercepts, zeros, and asymptotes of a rational function. Find the domain and range of a rational function. Let us start with the intercepts. These are the x and y coordinates of the points at which a graph crosses the x-axis or y-axis respectively. There are two types of intercepts, the y-intercept and the x-intercept. Now, let's take this first example in finding the intercepts of a rational function. We have f of x is equal to x plus 8 all over x minus 2. Now, let's find the y-intercept. Ang gagawin nyo lang, pag hahanapin ang y-intercept, substitute nyo lang ang 0 sa lahat ng values ng x. Pag x-intercept naman ang hahanapin, isubstitute nyo lang ang 0 sa lahat ng value ng y or f of x. So, since y-intercept muna yung hahanapin natin, gagawin nating 0 ang lahat ng values ng x. Magiging f of 0 is equal to 0 plus 8 all over 0 minus 2, and that will become 8 over negative 2 equals negative 4. Next, let's have the x-intercept. Again, kung hahanapin ang x-intercept, gagawing 0 ang lahat ng y or f of x. So, meron tayong 0 is equal to x plus 8 all over x minus 2. Once substitute na natin ang 0 sa f of x or y, let's solve for the value of x para mahanap ang x-intercept. Okay, ang ginawa ko, nag-cross multiply ako. So, magiging 0 times the quantity x minus 2 is equal to x plus 8. Okay, so sa left side, 0 times the quantity x minus 2, the answer is 0. Equals x plus 8. Then solve for the value of x, magiging x equals negative 8. Therefore, ito na ang ating mga intercepts. So, ang y-intercept natin is 0 and negative 4, and ang x-intercept naman natin is negative 8 and 0. Papakita ko sa inyo anong itsura ng graph natin. Again, ang intercepts, ito yung mga points where the graph crosses the y and x-axis. So, yan. So, ito na yung ating y-intercept. Y-intercept, so, nag-cross siya sa y-axis. Ito naman ang ating x-intercept. Nag-cross siya sa x-axis. Yan ang itsura ng graph natin. So, yun lang. Another example, we have f of x is equal to x squared minus 5x plus 6 all over x squared minus 2x plus 3. Let's find the y-intercept. Again, to find the value of this, ang gagawin nyo lang, gawing 0 ang lahat ng x na variables. So, magiging, ganyan na siya. So, 0 squared minus 5 times 0 plus 6. The answer is 6 sa numerator. And sa denominator naman, 0 squared minus 2 times 0 plus 3. And the answer is 3. 6 divided by 3. The answer is 2. So that means kung 0 ang x, 2 ang kanyang labas. For the x-intercept naman, ang gagawin again is gawing 0 ang lahat ng values ng y or ang f of x. So magiging 0 equals x squared minus 5x plus 6 all over x squared minus 2x plus 3. Okay? Para mas mapadali, cross multiply natin ang 0 at saka yung denominator. Magiging 0 equals yung numerator. So now, let's find the value of x. Para mahanap natin ang value ng x, ang gagawin natin dito is i-factor natin siya. So magiging 0 equals the quantity x minus 2 times the quantity x minus 3. Ano na ngayon ang mga values ng x? So, the values of x are x equals 2 or x equals 3. Ibig sabihin, kung 2 ang x natin, ibig sabihin ang nasa 0 yung y or 0 ang y. And then kung 3 naman yung x, 0 din ang kanyang y. So, ito na. Ang y-intercept, ito, 0, 2. Okay? Bakit 0 yan? Kasi 0 yung x. Dito naman, sa ating x-intercept, 2, 0, and 3, 0. Okay? 0 yung, ginawa nating 0 yung y. Okay? 0 yung y. So, that means, yung x-coordinate niya ay 2 or 3. So, yun na yung mga coordinates for the intercepts. Ipapakita ko yung graph. Ganito siya. So, for the y-axis, nag-cross siya at 0, 2. Ayan. Sa y-axis. Yan yung y-intercept. And sa x-axis naman, nag-cross siya sa 2, 0. Yan. 2, 0 at saka 3, 0. Yan. Ito yung mga x-intercepts. Another example, we have f of x is equal to x squared plus 9 all over x squared minus 3. Now, let's find the value of y-intercept. Magiging, yan, ginawa lang 0 lahat ng x variable. So, magiging 0 squared plus 9, the answer is 9. Okay, 0 squared minus 3, the answer is negative 3. 9 divided by negative 3, the answer is negative 3. That means ang y-intercept natin is 0, negative 3. For the x-intercept, ganyan lang siya and then cross-multiply. Naging 0 equals yung numerator na x squared plus 9. Paano yan siya? Okay, gawin natin ganyan. X squared equals negative 9. Okay, para x na lang matira, kunin natin ang square root ng both sides. So, magiging, since ang square root ng negative number is an imaginary number, that means wala tayong real solution. So, that means wala siyang x-intercept para sa function na ito. So, ang kanyang intercept lang is yung sa y-intercept, pero wala siyang x-intercept. Ang graph naman ito is ganito. Ayan, kung makikita ninyo, sa y-axis lang siya nag-cross dito. Okay, sa 0, negative 3. Pero sa x-axis, hindi talaga siya nag-cross ang graph. Hindi nag-cross ang graph sa x-axis. So, that means wala siyang x-intercept. Ito lang yung sagot, yung y-intercept na 0, negative 3. For you to practice, try these following rational functions by finding its intercepts. Let's talk about the zeros of a rational function. When dealing with the rational functions, whatever value of x that will make the numerator 0 without simultaneously making the denominator equal to 0 will be a zero of the said rational function. These are the steps that you are going to follow when finding the zeros of a rational function. Number 1, factor the numerator and denominator if possible. Number 2, identify the restrictions. These are the x that will make the denominator equal to 0. Number 3, identify the values of the x that will make the numerator equal to 0. And number 4, the zeros of the rational function are the values of x that will make the numerator 0 but are not restrictions of the rational function. Now let's try this rational function. F of x is equal to x squared plus 6x plus 8 all over x squared minus x minus 6. Number 1, let's factor the numerator and denominator if possible. Sa function na ito, mapafactor pa siya. So, ano yung factors ng numerator? We have the quantity x plus 4 and the quantity x plus 2. Sa denominator naman, meron tayong quantity x minus 3 and quantity x plus 2. Yan. Number 2, ano yung mga restrictions? Ito yung mga values ng x that will make the denominator equal to 0. So, yan yung mga restrictions. Ano yung mga restrictions natin dito? Tignan natin yung sa denominator. Okay, yan. Ano yung mga values ng x dyan? That will make it 0. So we have positive 3 and negative 2. Next step. Ang tignan naman natin is yung sa numerator. Ano yung mga values ng x that will make it 0? So we have dito and dyan. We have negative 4 and negative 2. Ano naman yung 0, yung final answer? So, ang zeros daw ng rational function, ito yung mga sagot sa number 3, sa step number 3, na dapat hindi siya restrictions. Okay? So, dito, makikita natin naka-red yung x equals negative 2. Bakit? Kasi restriction siya. Ibig sabihin, hindi siya 0. Bakit siya naging restriction? Kasi nandito siya sa step number 2. That means, hindi siya 0. Ang 0 lang natin dito is yung x equals negative 4. So, that's it. Now, let's try this rational function. F of x is equal to x squared minus 4x plus 4 all over x squared minus 4. Number 1, factor the numerator and denominator. So, the factors are, for the numerator, we have quantity x minus 2 and quantity x minus 2. And for the denominator, we have quantity x minus 2 and the quantity x plus 2. Now, let's find the restrictions. Okay, bakit siya tinawag na restrictions nga? Ito yung mga x dito sa denominator that will make it 0. Kasi kung magiging 0 yan, or kung yan yung mga values ng x sa denominator, magiging undefined na ang rational function. Kaya siya tinawag na restrictions, or hindi siya pwedeng maging value ng x. Okay, so let's find the restrictions. Okay, so for the denominator, the restrictions are positive 2 and negative 2. Number 3, ano naman yung mga values ng x? Okay, that will make the numerator equal to 0. Tignan naman natin yung mga nasa numerator ng mga factors. So dito, we have, okay, since the same lang naman sila, we have x equals 2. Okay, since yung x equals 2 is a restriction, so hindi siya pwedeng maging 0. Okay, so for this rational function, wala siyang 0. So, sulat nyo lang, no 0. Let's talk about the asymptotes. Now, these are the line or curves that the graph of a function gets close to but does not touch. So, there are 3 types of asymptotes. We have the vertical asymptote, the horizontal asymptote, and the oblique or slant asymptote. In determining the asymptotes of rational function, all you have to do is follow these steps. First, reduce the rational function to lowest term. There are also wholes or whole that is produced when the numerator and denominator have common factor. Arrange both the numerator and denominator in ascending order based from its exponents. For the vertical asymptotes, set the denominator to 0 and solve for x. Take note that there may be one or more or none. For the other asymptotes, look for the degree of the polynomials of the numerator and denominator. N is the degree for the numerator and m is for the denominator. If m is greater than n, then its horizontal asymptote is y equals 0. If m is equal to n, then its horizontal asymptote is y equals a over b. If it is m less than n, then it is an oblique asymptote. The quotient is the oblique asymptote in the form of linear function with non-zero slope. Now let's try to find all the asymptotes of the graph of each function. First, we have f of x equals 1 all over x plus 1. For the vertical asymptote, we're going to set the denominator equal to 0 and then solve for x. Therefore, x is equal to negative 1. For the other asymptotes, let's look at the degree of the numerator and the denominator.
Since the degree of the denominator is greater than the numerator, or m, which is in the denominator, and n is for the numerator, so m is greater than n, therefore it is a horizontal asymptote, and we have y equals 0. I'm going to show you the graph. The green one is the graph of the rational function, and the red one is the vertical asymptote. The blue one is the horizontal asymptote, and as you can see, the graph of the rational function gets closer to the asymptotes, but it never touches it. Next, we have f of x equals 4x all over 2x plus 1. For the vertical asymptote, let's find a value of x that will make the denominator equal to 0. Therefore, we have x equals negative 1/2. For the other asymptote, let's look at the degree of the numerator and the denominator. Since they are equal, so we have 1, the degree of the numerator is 1, and the degree of the denominator is also 1. Therefore, we have a horizontal asymptote. And to find the horizontal asymptote, all we need to do is find the coefficient of the leading terms. We have 4 divided by 2. So we have y equals 2. Here's the graph of the rational function. Here. So again, the graph gets closer to the asymptotes, but it never touches it. Another example, we have f of x equals x squared all over x minus 1. For the vertical asymptote, let's find the value of x that will make the denominator equal to 0. So that is x equals 1. For the other asymptote, let's look at the degree of the numerator and the denominator. And since the degree of the denominator is less than the degree of the numerator, therefore it is an oblique asymptote. And to find the equation of this asymptote, we have to find the quotient of the numerator and denominator in the form of linear function with non-zero slope. All we have to do is to do this x squared divided by the quantity x minus 1. So that will be x plus 1. So the oblique asymptote is y equals x plus 1. The graph of this rational function is this. Same with the other graph. The graph gets closer to the asymptotes, but it never touches it.
Here's the last example for finding the asymptotes of a rational function. We have f of x equals x squared minus 4x plus 3 all over x squared minus 5x plus 4. Okay, since we can factor the numerator and denominator, let's factor this and then simplify. So the factors for the numerator are x minus 1, and we have also x minus 3. For the denominator, we have x minus 1 and x minus 4. As you can see, pwede siyang masimplify by eliminating the common factors or eliminating the x minus 1. So let's eliminate. Ang natira is, ito na lang. Okay, so we have x minus 3 all over x minus 4. Now, ano ang value ng x sa denominator that will make it 0? We have x equals 4. Now, for the other asymptote, since the degree of the numerator is equal to the degree of the denominator, therefore, it is a horizontal asymptote. And let's divide the coefficient of the leading terms. So we have 1 for the numerator and 1 for the denominator. So 1 divided by 1. So y equals 1. Okay? As you can see, meron tayong na-eliminate kanina. So ito siya. Merong common factor sa numerator and sa denominator. So anong value ng x dito that will make this 0? So we have x equals 1. So therefore, Pag ang x is equal to 1, okay, meron tayong hole sa graph. Okay, hole sa graph. A hole on a graph looks like a hollow circle. It represents the fact that the function approaches the point but is not actually defined on that precise x value. The reason why this function is not defined at 1 is because 1 is not in the domain of the function. As you can see, f of 1 is undefined because it makes the denominator of the rational part of the function 0, which makes the whole function undefined. Meaning, pag ang x dito is equal to 1, okay, pag x is equal to 1, magiging undefined, okay, magiging undefined ang ating rational function. Okay, so, meron siyang hole at x equals 1. Ganito ang itsura ng ating graph. So, ito yung hole. So, when x is equal to 1, substitute natin dito. Okay, substitute natin dyan. When x is equal to 1, ang value ng y is 2/3. Kaya 2/3 ang nandito. Para ma-identify natin kung saan yung hole. Magkakaroon lang ng hole pag merong common factor ang numerator and denominator. Now let's talk about the domain and range. The domain of a function f of x equals n of x all over d of x is all the values of x that will not make d of x equal to 0. The range of the function is the set of all values that f takes. The domain of a rational function consists of all the real numbers x except those for which the denominator is 0. To find these x values to be excluded from the domain of a rational function, equate the denominator to 0 and solve for x. The range is sometimes easier to find by first finding the inverse of the function and determining its domain.
Now let's have these examples in finding the domain and range of the rational functions. First example, we have f of x equals 1 over x. Again, the domain is all the real numbers except for the x values in the denominator that will make it 0. So, for this example, what are the values of x or value of x that will make the denominator equal to 0? So that is x equals 0. So therefore, the domain is the set of all x such that x is not equal to 0 or all real numbers except 0. Bakit hindi pwede ang 0? Kasi magiging undefined ang rational function na ito. How about the range? To find the range, first, kunin muna natin ang inverse ng rational function na to. How to find the inverse? First, replace f of x with y. Magiging y equals 1 over x. Now, replace every x with a y and replace every y with an x. Magiging x equals 1 over y. Now, solve the equation for y. Ibig sabihin, dapat sa isang side is y. How? Ang gagawin natin is let's cross multiply this. Okay, yan. Dalawa. X times y magiging xy equals 1. Para y na lang talaga ang matira dito. Sa left side, let's divide both sides by x. Magiging y equals 1 over x. So, yan na yung inverse niya. But let's just replace this y with the symbol of the inverse function. So, yan yung kanyang symbol. The inverse of f of x is 1 over x. Now, ang pagkuha ng range is the same lang doon sa domain. So, ano yung magiging value dito sa inverse na function that will make the denominator equal to 0? So, yan na. So, it's 0. Therefore, the range is the set of all y, which is an element of all real numbers. And then, y is not equal to 0 or pwede din na the set of all real numbers except 0. For the second example, we have g of x equals x all over x minus 1. So, ano yung value ng denominator that will make it 0? Excluded na siya sa domain natin. So, ano siya? So, we have 1. Therefore, the domain is the set of all x such that x is not equal to 1. For the range, kunin naman natin ang kanyang inverse. Again, replace f of x with y. We have y equals x all over x minus 1, and then lahat ng y gawing x and lahat ng x gawing y, magiging x equals y all over y minus 1. Now, cross-multiply natin. So, x times y magiging xy, x times negative 1 magiging negative x. So, yan na, xy minus x equals y. Now, para y na lang matira talaga, let's move yung lahat ng may y variable sa isang side dito sa left side, and then yung ibang variable sa other side magiging xy minus y equals x. Let's factor out y sa left side. Okay, we have y times the quantity x minus 1 equals x. So, para y na lang yung matira talaga, let's divide both sides by x minus 1. Magiging y equals x all over x minus 1. So, let's just replace y with the inverse na function. Inverse function na symbol, we have this. Now, the question, ano yung value ng x dyan that will make the denominator equal to 0? So, we have 1. Therefore, the range is all real numbers except 1. Next example, we have f of x equals x plus 1 all over x minus 2. Ano yung mga values ng x dyan that will make the denominator equal to 0? So, yun yung excluded sa domain. So, we have 2. Therefore, the set of all x such that x is not equal to 2, yan yung ating domain or lahat ng values ng x. How about sa range? Kunin natin ang inverse. So, again, yung f of x gawin nating y, and then, next step nito, lahat ng x dyan gawin nating y, and yung y gawin nating x. Yan. And then, cross-multiply again. X times y is xy. So, ito. Okay. Cross-multiply natin yan. X times y is xy, and x times negative 2 is negative 2x equals yung sa numerator. Now, lahat ng may y, ligay natin sa isang side, sa left side. Then, yung other side, yung mga natirang terms, we have xy minus y equals 2x plus 1. Now, let's factor out y dito sa left side ng equation. Magiging y times the quantity x minus 1 equals 2x plus 1. Now, let's divide both sides by x minus 1. Magiging y equals 2x plus 1 all over x minus 1. Now, ano yung value ng denominator that will make it 0? So, we have 1. Therefore, the domain is, we have the set of all y such that y is not equal to 1, or the set of all real numbers except 1. So, yan ang range niya. How about this last example? We have g of x equals 2x minus 3 all over 3x plus 6. So, ano yung value ng x dyan sa denominator? That will make it 0. So, we have negative 2. So, ang domain natin is the set of all x such that x is not equal to negative 2. For the range, kunin agad natin ang inverse. Yan. Interchange natin. And then, cross-multiply, magiging 3xy plus 6x equals 2y minus 3. Lahat ng may y variable, ilagay sa isang side. Magiging 3xy minus 2y equals negative 6x minus 3. Factor out ang y. So y times the quantity 3x minus 2 equals negative 6x minus 3. So para y na lang matira, let's divide both sides kung ano yung nasa parenthesis. Okay, so yan na ang ating inverse. Now, ano yung value naman ng x dyan sa denominator ng inverse function? Okay, para maging 0 siya. Para makuha yon, equate mo lang siya 3x minus 2 equals 0 and then solve for x. So, ano yung value ng x dyan? So, yan na ang ating range. The set of all y such that y is not equal to 2/3.
Now let's have this last example for this lesson. Let's find the intercepts, zeros, asymptotes, domain, and range. Then you have to graph the rational function. So we have f of x equals x plus 1 all over 2x minus 3. So what are the intercepts of this rational function? Again, to find the y-intercept, you have to substitute 0 to all x in this rational function. And to find the x-intercept, gawin nyo lang 0 yung f of x. Okay, and then solve for x. Now, the intercepts are 0, negative 1/3, and negative 1, 0. How about the 0? Okay, ano yung mga 0? Ito yung mga excess sa numerator na hindi siya restriction. So, dito, ang 0 niya is x equals negative 1. Bakit siya tinawag na 0? Kasi kung negative 1 daw yung x dyan, magiging 0 yung rational function. Kaya siya tinawag na 0. How about the vertical asymptote? So, ang vertical asymptote, ang gagawin nyo lang is ano yung value ng x sa denominator na maging 0 siya. Kung baga, ano yung mga restriction, parang restriction siya. Okay? Ano yung vertical asymptote? So, we have x equals 3/2. Okay. How about the horizontal asymptote? Horizontal asymptote kasi equal lang yung kanyang degree sa numerator and denominator. So, para makuha ang horizontal asymptote, let's divide the coefficient of the leading term. So, 1 divided by 2, so y equals 1/2. How about the domain? Okay, the domain is all x, all real numbers except 3/2. So, parang paulit-ulit lang siya. Connected. Mga vertical asymptote, yung sa domain, okay, yung restrictions, pare-pareho lang sila. Okay, how about ang range? Okay, so para makuha ang range, kunin mo muna yung inverse niya. Okay, so ang range is all real numbers except 1/2. Okay, I'm going to show you the graph of this rational function. Ayan. So, yung green, yan yung graph talaga ng rational function. Yung blue na line dyan is the vertical asymptote. Okay, and ang red naman is ang horizontal asymptote. Ang kanyang intercepts is ito. So, sa y-intercept, dito siya kasi nasa y-axis. Ang x-intercept, nandito naman siya sa negative 1, 0. Yan yung x-intercept. Yan. Tsaka ang domain niya, lahat daw ng values ng x, ibig sabihin, lahat dito, okay, meron siya, pero hindi talaga siya nag-cross sa 3/2. So, yan. Dito na line. Okay? Walang value ang x dito sa 3/2. Okay. Ang range naman niya, lahat ng y values meron. Okay. Sa pataas, meron siya. Okay. Maliban na lang dito. Okay.
Walang value or hindi talaga nag-cross yung graph at 1/2. So, parang connected yung horizontal asymptote at saka yung range and yung domain and vertical asymptote for this graph or for this rational function.